Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all. Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today, I have Justin Brennan joins us in the lab. And before I even start, guys, Justin is dialing in from the land of the paradise, pretty much.
Well,
that's
it's
how
the worst place. It's the worst place in the United States.
But most important, the reason I'm so excited to have Justin here is you guys know Experiment Nation. We're all about experiments, and you're taking experimenting to the whole next level. And this is, I'll tell you why, right? The real estate umbrella is large. We got tons of syndicators that come in, some developers, etc. But you just decided you're going to come in here and just dominate all vertical, you know, and guys, I'll preface this, you know, top real estate teams in San Diego, luxury real estate, which everybody loves, multifamily investing, which everyone's trying to get into, construction, syndication, land planning. We'll have to figure out a little bit because I don't know how sexy that is, but all of the above are fantastic.
That's actually where all the money's at, man, but it's also the most risk.
I'm so glad. See, this is why I like this guy. You went straight for the money because that was going to be one of my questions. I have that in there. But Justin, first of all, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited to have you. Let's talk about all this, man. Before I like to, you know, get right behind the person because I believe you're a reflection of your business. But before we level set, I mean, which one did you start with, man?
Development and construction. You know, I grew up, third generation son of a developer builder. My grandparents, same thing. And then my dad, all kind of filtered down. So, I mean, I just grew up on my dad's job sites, digging ditches, for no other purpose other than to dig the ditch and have my dad teach us the value of a dollar. I mean, cause we'd dig it and he'd be like, we're like, why do we do that? He's like, oh, just fill it back in. I'm like, what was that for? But he simply that, the value of hard work, the value of a dollar, all that stuff that, you know, parents try and teach kids. Did that for years and years and years. And then it got to the point where, graduating college and then, coming back home, I didn't want to just kind of say, Dad, where's the opportunity at a job, right? I wanted to go out and make it on my own. So I got into the title business of real estate as a title insurance rep and did that for several years. And then realized, I really wanted to dig into getting a master's degree in the real estate field and real estate development on top of my background in general. So we got that and then came out and at that point started working with my dad's companies in 2006, 5 and 6 through the financial crisis, the good old financial crisis of 2008, 9, 10, so forth that we all remember.
Days.
Hopefully not.
Nope.
But, that was an incredible learning experience. I've always said that in moments of suffering, greatness is born. And that was really kind of a pivot for me as I helped kind of consolidate my dad's businesses because he was so much into the, build, but then he would sell, right? He would never hold, meaning he wasn't so much, he'd build a bunch of apartments, build the multifamily, build the single family home divisions and all that, but would sell them and never held on to them. And so there's benefits and drawbacks to that. But the drawback, the biggest one was seen most evidently in any of these kind of real estate cycles where his income would mimic that because you didn't have that consistency of wealth growth in cash flow, right? Income producing assets, all those things that kind of keep your leverage low and keep your risk kind of curtailed to be able to ride through the crazy times that we all go through. And there's going to be real estate cycles. We're going to go through another one if it's not already starting. So that taught me the value of apartments, but more importantly, buying and holding apartments and not just building and selling apartments. And so that's kind of what started the Brennan Group. And that started in 2000, really started in 2008, but then we didn't start buying stuff till 2010 and started with literally $100,000 condo in Murrieta, California, right? Nothing sexy. But it cash flowed beautifully, and we bought it right in the heart of 2009 and 10 in the financial crisis. Obviously, we more than doubled our money when we sold it. But it started with a condo, then a single family home. Then we got into the 2 to 4 unit space, right? We're buying multi-units, 3 to 4 unit properties. And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, we've kind of mastered that. The next stage is getting into, the 5, 10, 20, 50 unit space. And then from that, then you go to the next graduation, right, which is 80 to 120 units and so forth. So right now we're in that spot of that kind of 10 to 50 units. And we've got there, and we're pretty comfortable now with moving from that 50 plus space, which is where we're starting to look in there. And that's kind of the last 20 years of my life, I guess.
That's so interesting. And you dropped so many gems in there, and I want to make sure they don't slip through the cracks. So first of all, I want to circle back. You talked about, building the foundation essentially of real estate from within the home, considering that you're a third generation, which I find very interesting. Now I do want to ask you this, because we try to find out who Justin is first, and then we're going to, identify what the external is.
Sure.
Is it common, do you think, for people to just, when you're third generation, is it almost obvious that, I'm probably going to end up working a family business, so let me just kind of go against the grain and maybe try a little something different? Like, was there a little bit of that, or was it just kind of like, was it evident to you that you were going to end up working for the family business, or was it more like,
Not really. I mean, you also have as a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut, right?
Nice.
You go through all these things. But what I loved most, as I kind of learned from my dad and grandmother, is kind of looking at a raw piece of dirt, and this is where the land planning comes in.
Yeah.
And being able to see a 50 unit or a 200 unit apartment complex on it, and watching it go from literally a raw piece of dirt to that within 3 years. Yeah. And I fell in love with that process.
Nice.
Like any kid playing in a sandbox, building things, right? And Lego blocks and all that stuff. And like, you're doing it for real now. And I fell in love with that process more than maybe the other things in it. So that's what kind of drove me into it, is not so much the family, but the love for seeing something go from nothing to greatness.
Yeah. And
seeing how that impacts a community, right? In a positive way. But then even cooler, like you can drive by it in 25, 30 years from now, it's still there. Hopefully.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I love that.
So in the beginning, was it always, it sounded like construction, and then did you tap into other things? Or was it just, that's what primarily, it sounded like that's what you saw with dad, et cetera? Or was it other things?
It was always real estate based, of the development and the building and the land planning side. Because land planning comes first, where you take a raw piece of dirt, you decide what you can do on it, right? So that's the planning side. And then once you get the approvals, then you move into the construction phase, where you design to go vertical and build, right? So the land planning is kind of where all the technicalities come in place, and you can do a little infill project where you're putting a building on one lot, right? Or you can do a subdivision where you're taking 20, 30 acres and subdividing it and doing a master plan community. You see those where there's, retail with family, all that stuff mixed in. So that stuff I loved. And then it kind of graduated into falling in love really with the multifamily space, whether it's condos or apartments, right? Either for sale or for rent. But that multifamily environment became very, very well versed in that. And that's kind of where my specialty is at today.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that specialty, because that's one that we're definitely very familiar with. But we also, again, Experiment Nation is about learning kind of new things. I've only probably had one other developer. I don't know if you know Evan Holiday. We're a great guy in our network. But so let's talk about this for a second, because, we talked about it, man. You said that's where the money's at. But I want to understand a little bit more, because I'm not familiar with it, and those who are listening may not be familiar with it. When we're talking about a land play, are you playing catch up based on what's happening around you? Are you playing, or are you kind of the front runner where you're like, okay, this is where we see the potential based on what the data is telling us? Like, besides location, what else is it that you're looking at when you're looking at a specific land play?
Well, definitely looking at future redevelopment. So in terms of what I mean by that is, who's the major employees or employers for that area? What future is coming into that area in terms of what the government, local municipalities are planning, right? Their master plans for the whole area, and our, kind of talent, university systems, college education, and what are they planning for development? Because that's going to kind of give you an idea of where the jobs are. Because at the end of the day, it's all about jobs, right? If people have jobs, they can afford rent. If people have jobs, they can afford houses. If they don't have jobs, they can't afford either. So it is simple math.
So you're foreshadowing it, not to cut you off, you're saying really good things here. I want to make sure we bring this home. You're foreshadowing along with other, individuals, like, again, government related, or it's, employers, other employers, et cetera. So is it that hey, Apple moved here, let's play catch up, or hey, Apple is planning to move here? Like which one is it? Okay,
Both.
interesting.
Yeah, but usually if you can get ahead of it, because usually you can, because the cities will set up their
zoning.
If they're the zoning, but then they'll update their plans for their community, right? Whether it's the zip code or region, right? San Diego, right, as a county, but then you have municipalities. So they'll set up their plans, and within those plans, they have, hey, we want to bring in these employers, and then you find out, oh, like you said, Apple or Amazon or some other employer is actually coming into the region. They're going to be taking over this. Well, now you know that's going to create 5,000 new jobs. So, and that's usually, it all takes time. So it's not like it happens overnight. So it's sometimes 1, 2, 3 years out.
Yeah.
So if you can get that information and then you go and you find a piece of land that's for sale, well, then you start doing your due diligence. You have a market analysis done by a third-party company that's like trained in it, right? You pay them $10,000, obviously on a big piece of land. They're going to do a full-blown market feasibility study. Wow. And as a part of that feasibility study, it's going to be what's coming, right? Other potential developments that are going to happen in the area. So that way, you know, supply and demand.
Yeah.
You can gauge your potential project as a relation to that. So.
Well, very, very well explained, Justin. Let me ask you this. These plans that you keep talking about, where can one find them if they're listening right now? Is it accessible to me and you, Justin, or maybe just exclusively to you, Justin, because you're just that guy? What's up?
If you go online, let's say you find a piece of dirt wherever it's at, you can usually go on to the local city websites and or the county websites, and they're going to have their master plans they've set up for their municipality. General plans, they usually was what they call them, their general plan. And then they have a specific plan as well. So it's the general plan and the specific plan, and you can usually pull those up on the municipality's websites.
Interesting. So you might have another actual resource up your sleeve, because if you know this knowledge, again, knowledge is power. I'm assuming you also use this for your multifamily investing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah, because we'll pull up, if we're going into a certain, zip code or part of the country. I mean, I'm going in 6 months in advance of us buying anything.
Yeah.
And I'll get boots on the ground. We'll kick the dirt. We'll meet all the property management companies. Right, we're going to meet all the construction crews that are going to help with rehab. I'm walking other potential buildings, getting the rents, the lay of the land, kind of getting the feel good for areas 6 months in advance of us ever buying a property. So that way all the logistics are worked out. And once we go, we can go. And we're not trying to play catch up.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit, because there's a lot of folks who are listening. Either again, our base is a lot of entrepreneurs, and also obviously a lot of syndicators, multifamily, value add. That's that's like second nature now at this point. But land play, construction. When am I getting my money? Right? Because as we know, where am my money at? Let's talk about that for a second. It's a very long-term play, if I understand it, or maybe it's not. You might have more insight onto the realm of the different kind of possibilities and structures. Do you want to talk about that for a second? Like if you're compared to multifamily?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in California, yes, it is a long play, and you better be ready. If you're going to take a raw piece of dirt, right? And let's presume it's bigger than just a little lot in a community. So it's bigger than just an infill project. You're going to take a piece of dirt that's good size, call it an acre or so. It's going to take you 2 to 3 years to entitle it, is what they would call that, where you go from raw dirt to planning to actually have an approved design. And then at that point, you can pull and do your construction documents to design the buildings or buildings to go vertical. So it's 3 years just to get there, 2 to 3 years. And then you're going to construct it. That's going to take you another, depending, 12 to 18 months to build the thing. So it's a 5-year play.
Okay, so I'm assuming, are you, or maybe I should make assumptions. I'll take a step back. Are you raising capital for these kind of projects?
Yes, but we typically won't raise capital until we have the approvals on a project. If it's new construction, like right now, we're entitling a 19-unit apartment building in San Diego.
Yeah. And
we're about 18 months into that process. We should have the approvals ideally by the end of this year, putting us right around 24 months for it. We're using all our own capital internally to entitle it. And then we'll start to raise capital for the construction and the actual project itself. Because you hit the nail on the head. What investors want is they want certainty of time frame, ideally. Like, here's my money. When do I get it back? How much do I get back? And how often do I get paid? You know, and kind of simplify it for people, and give them consistency. Because if you're not able to answer those questions, then what happens is the required return that those investors want begins to increase, because you're increasing risk with it, right? I mean, it's risk reward. It all kind of goes hand in hand, right? So if you remove the risk out of the investment, then the reward is going to be less as well.
Okay.
So that's what we do on the land plays. We take the risk away from the investors. We put it on ourselves. And then by the time we get to where we can go vertical with construction, that's when we'll raise capital for investors. Because then we can go to them and say, look, we're going to build this thing. It's going to start here. It's going to take us 18 months to build it. We're going to lease it up. It's going to take us another 6. You'll have your money in 24 to 28 months. Right? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So Justin, if I'm listening to this, and even yourself right now as you're transitioning into multifamily, I would ask, why would you choose that over, let's say, a value at play? Like, is there some type of value that maybe we're missing? Is there more control? Is there more, tell me a little bit about that. What you think personally from experience. I think I'm actually asking the right guy. You're not jaded in any way. Is there an advantage and or disadvantage?
Well, it's getting harder, at least in California, to build anything and make money just because of all the red tape and the legislation and stuff on top of things. It's just making it very challenging. But there is, if you can get the land right, I mean, the key is in the land. And then the key is also making sure, because there's huge profits to be made, but you got to buy the land right. Number one. Number two, you need to avoid land loans, meaning you need to do as much of it with cash as you can during the land planning process,
right? Because
there's so many variables and so many unknowns, and you don't have a good time frame of scope. So because of that, you can't be picking on interest, because it's just going to eat you alive, right? So you got to do as much with cash and keep the loans down and the leverage low as you're going through the land planning process before you can get ready to pull your permits. That would be my recommendation. There's plenty of money to be made. It's just the land's got to be bought right, not over speculate. And that's hard. It's hard to do right now, especially in the market we're in, whereas we know we're kind of at the 11th hour of a cycle.
Yeah.
And it's a timing thing before we see adjustments. So.
And I think this came to light on one other gentleman I was speaking with, and I don't know if this is applicable in California as well. Is there any tax advantages to land plays that are more beneficial as well to other type of?
In the opportunity zones, there are. Mm-hmm. So, what took place in the last, year, I think it came into effect last year. But it's been in planning for some time, but the fact that they executed on these opportunity zones is a big deal.
Right.
And it's bringing a lot of private capital into, depleted neighborhoods that need this, I don't know if you want to call it, redevelopment. I mean, I just went to 2 of them this last week in Logan Heights here in San Diego, and then Sherman Heights. And those are all, areas of San Diego that need redevelopment, right? And they're just asking for it. So now you have a lot of private capital coming into them.
Yeah.
Investments going up, buildings going up, and that's everything from new retail centers to new apartment buildings and housing, affordable housing, low income housing, all that stuff's going up. You can see it. And it's a huge advantage, and it's great for those communities, because what they're doing, which is super smart, is they're making sure, what happens a lot of times when areas get redeveloped is the prices go up and it pushes people that were there out.
Right.
Right? So what they're doing a pretty good job of with the opportunity zones is that you have to do a certain number of affordable housing, certain number of low income housing, all this stuff, because what they want to do is keep the people who are there. Obviously bring in new folks, fine.
Yeah.
But then clean everything up and then provide great new environments, right? And then when you're charging fees and taxes for schools and firefighters and police and all that stuff, so those, now you get, new police station, new fire station, new school gets revamped. All these things start to happen in these blighted communities that haven't seen it for decades.
Yeah, no, I love that you're talking about this, Justin, because and this is why I love real estate. I think you have the ability to make such an impact at a macro level and micro level. And I just think it's, we talk about that, the foundation of, the schools, the city, et cetera, with the taxes and including the people, right? I think one thing that happens sometimes with gentrification is, unfortunately the people get booted out, but when you're taking care of the people and uplifting them, and I think that's where, we talk a lot about change during these times, and I as real estate investors, I think, definitely playing your part in that sense and building communities is definitely something me patting your back on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And you get to see it happen firsthand.
Yeah.
And you get to see the impact it does leave on the community. If you do it right, just do the right thing. It's amazing what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So let's transition to keeping it real for a second. So you and I meet you at the airport, maybe, we're sitting first class, because that's how we like to do it, right? I got Justin, the money man here, and I'm sitting next to you and I shake your hand. What's your elevator pitch to me, man? Like,
oh, talking about Johnny on the spot. What's my elevator pitch to me? What do you want to know? I mean, am I trying to?
No, I'm literally, hey, what brings you here? What kind of work do you do? Because I think, first of all, I have an episode for you on that, and I have a book for that. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, the 30-second elevator pitch.
No, it's not the book. It's actually the gentleman Phil M. Jones, exactly what to say, and he has a great way of how he he's literally another Renaissance man too. So. But the reason I'm curious is I asked that question because I'm curious as to, what are you tapping more into, and maybe where I'm getting at too is like, what do you enjoy doing the most, and maybe identify yourself with, and so maybe that's it, right? Maybe you're trying to impress the real estate experiment host, and you're just trying to tell me what you do, and I want to get a sense of what it is that you do. So what would be the first thing that would come to mind, or that you'd like to kind of put out there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'd introduce myself as my name, Justin Brennan, and then I'd probably ask you where you're from, and get a good idea on that. I'd probably turn it on you, to be honest with you. That's what I would personally do, because I do not really, I wouldn't say enjoy, but I get more joy out of actually asking questions and hearing other people and not being the talking head. So I'd probably turn it on you and start asking you questions, but that would engage you, right? Yeah. So then we would actually build a connection, because it's about rapport. If I was trying to impress you and build rapport, it wouldn't be me talking like a talking head. I would turn it on to you and start asking you engaging questions to bring you in closer. Yeah. And then I wouldn't even talk about real estate. If I was trying to pitch you on real estate, we wouldn't even talk about real estate. We'd talk about other things that are fun. I'm a Patriots guy. It's a painful experience right now, because I knew all good things had to come to an end.
Well, I live in Boston for 7 years, so I know the feeling of being a Patriots fan. But rough times, my friend, very rough.
I mean, well, but listen, nobody feels sorry for us. Trust me. For 20 years,
who's going to?
Everybody is like licking their chops, like they think this is the greatest thing ever.
Everyone's having, absolutely.
All great things have to come to an end. I've officially bought my 50-50 Tampa Bay Patriots jersey, Tom Brady jersey.
Stop. That is crazy. You even saying that still sounds wild to me.
It is. I almost threw up in my mouth the other day when I saw him in his new jersey. I was like, ugh.
I don't like that personally, but we're gonna pivot right back in. But I like it when I'm. It's funny. I'm a Cali boy, at heart, and obviously, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. I grew up watching him, huge fan, and I loved seeing him finish as a Laker. 20 years solid. I think it says something about just that loyalty,
going out on top.
Yeah, and with the
But I will tell you this: if Tom Brady is fortunate enough, because they have the tools. I mean, the Buccaneers have the tools and the talent in place to pull it off. If he does, he will officially be the GOAT. He will officially.
I mean, I have him up. Yeah, I don't know that you don't have him in the conversation right now. I personally think he should be and ought to be the GOAT. But yes, to your point.
Yeah, it would definitely do it. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting year. It's been a crazy year already. So
it's been a year, to say the very least. So let's talk about that. It's been a crazy year. What part of the business? And again, I want to talk about. I know we talked a lot about land. We talked about you kind of going into multifamily. We didn't talk about the real estate team that you have. You're doing such a great job, and you're such a humble guy. So I don't want to let these things slip through the cracks. But we'll use this question to kind of like maybe level set and get an understanding of like what's been impacted the most as far as during these times with all the verticals of your business, again, syndication, land planning, construction, luxury real estate, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Which one do you think has taken the biggest toll, and which one do you think has not really had a big impact?
Yeah, those are great questions. The sales side of things were good going in, and then obviously COVID blew up some deals.
So that's real estate sales, as in like selling, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. There's a luxury realtor here in San Diego.
Yes.
So that we kind of had some issues going into that. And then you're still seeing some issues come out of that in terms of supply and demand. People, obviously, we know with loss of jobs and all these other things, we haven't fully seen the impact from that yet. We'll know by mid to late summer where that's really trending by July and August as kind of the forbearances wear out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the stimulus, all these things are now still in effect, and they're going to be coming to end here. So we'll see how it all transcends by the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. But that definitely took an impact and a hit. It's coming back now, so that's improving. We also thought initially, we're like, oh crap, like people can't pay their rent, right? So that was a big thing on the landlord side of things. But we got ahead of it. So I saw it coming mid to late February. You could just kind of see it winding up, like, oh, this thing is going to get bad.
It's creeping
I could just tell. Yeah. I know that they were trying to downplay it, but dude, you could see it coming. Yeah. And so I actually got with our property management companies on our apartment buildings, said, hey, this is how I want to play this out. I want to get ahead of it, be proactive. We sent out letters to all the tenants by mid-March, letting them know, hey, look, if we start to run into issues, here's our protocol, here's our process. Mm-hmm. So that way we could get ahead of it, and we eliminated, we only probably had 10, maybe 15% of our tenants not be able to pay rent due to COVID, finances. Can
I stop you there for a second, Justin? Sorry to cut you off. I'm kind of curious just to give people an insight. What kind of asset class are you investing in? Because we know you're in California, but.
Well, yeah, but we're in now Missouri. And
okay, great.
Texas.
Yeah, okay, great. So you're also out of state.
C+ to B+ property.
Okay. So in those states, and I think that's important. Yeah. And okay. So, and that's important to know because I think people have assumptions about in California. So you're also Midwest, South. Interesting. So I guess from that asset class, and I've heard this a lot too, you haven't seen much of about
10 to 15% of the tenants had issues, and we're working with each one independently, and we're getting everybody through it. We're all working together because it was an amazing quote came from Mark Cuban, and he said, listen,
huge fan.
The way that companies and people treat other people during this time will have a lasting impact on their brand, their name, who they are as a human being forever.
Absolutely.
So, and you've seen that with some companies that have been, talk about the big conglomerates that have been very proactive, getting out there, helping people, getting ahead of things, still paying employees or whatever it is, right? Not firing people, whatever it is. And then other ones that maybe haven't been so good with it. Yeah. And it's just, people remember it and they're going to remember it. So just trust me, don't worry about the money thing for a moment. Just get out and try and help people because everybody's going through this and we will get through it. But everybody's on the same page. Yeah. So, and I think you just got to help people out and we'll get through it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because obviously you joked around about in the beginning, or I joked around about where's the money, etc. But at the end of the day, we're impacting lives, right? And all jokes aside, and you're having an impact on communities and people, and that's what brand is all about. Brand or not, I mean, just doing the right thing. And so I guess with that said, doing the right thing, what are some of those things that you've seen has worked for you guys internally as far as helping people out? What does that look like?
Well, sometimes you get landlords that don't have any give or take in how they work with tenants who are going through some issues, and they just kind of follow a certain protocol, and you're in and out, and that's just the way it is. I think you got to be a little bit more compassionate and sensitive to it. Try and understand what's going on, and then work with it. Because I've learned that there's very few people. When everybody said, "Oh gosh, all the government's given people the opportunity to just not pay rent because they don't want to pay rent," very few people would do that. I've found that most people just have a deep down oh gosh, I'm going to pay my rent.
Yeah.
And there's yes, there's some people that'll take advantage of it, so forth, but a vast majority of people don't have that intuitive feeling to do that. So vice versa, you got to turn it back and help people out and not have the immediate feeling oh, they're trying to take advantage of you as a landlord. You got to kind of say, no, let's understand the situation and just do the right thing. Because there's a difference between doing things right, because Because doing things right would be like, oh no, get the tenant out, get people in, let's get paid, let's do this, right? That's doing things right. Versus doing the right thing is maybe being a little more compassionate, understand the situation, and working through it. So
Absolutely.
That's what we try to do. That's what our goal is.
No, good for you. I respect you for that. Transitioning into, like before we got on this call or offline, I told you I was probably like a micro version of Justin, where I'm working with other agents and stuff. And you've managed to build a large team doing real estate. And sounds like you've also niched into luxury. Can you talk about that? Was that a niche? Did you fall into that? Is it the region that you're in? And then how does that look?
I moved into the coastal areas of San Diego in the late 90s, early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And, I figured, it's not like I just obviously fell in love with it. You get to see these amazing houses. And
it's okay to say you fell in love with it, because I fell in love with it. I was just talking about this. La Jolla. Do not feel bad for this gentleman in front of us right now. No, I'm just kidding. But no, this is such a beautiful area. It's unbelievable, Justin. So I don't blame you. So tell me about it. So you're in this beautiful area. There's obviously going to be beautiful real estate. Is it kind of luxury real estate for everybody out there? Or is it?
No, the average price point in San Diego is just under $600,000 right now. And that includes attached and detached, right? Mm-hmm. So it's both. So it's not until you get into the luxury space of over $1 million. Mm-hmm. But yes, La Jolla is definitely that for sure. But most of San Diego is, average 500,000-600,000, which is still high and proportionate to the average for the nation. Yeah. But no, I can't complain. I love it to death. And I use the residential sales really as a catalyst to then go position it to go buy apartments. That's essentially what it is.
And we're going to replay that one more time, because that's what you're preaching, what I practice.
Yeah. If someone could say, hey, what would the topic of your book be? Right. It'd be like, how to get the hell out of residential sales. Like that would be the book, because that's what I'm essentially setting up now. So that way in a few years from now, I probably won't be doing too much sales. Mm-hmm. It'll be more in the apartment space, like 9 times out of 10.
Got it. And in your luxury market, because I'm curious, I'm an agent. I'm going to ask you this. What's your average kind of luxury price point? Or
my average price right now is right around $1 million. It's $1,025,000 is my average sales price. And I'll do 18 to 25 deals a year. And then we'll just take, disposable income, if you want to call it that. It's not the cheapest place to live out here. And we'll position it into buying apartments and putting it into our apartment company. We always invest in our own apartment deals. So we're not the syndicators out there that are just, hey, let's just go raise capital, go buy an apartment, and we're not putting any skin in the game. Mm-hmm. So we're always putting 10, 20, 30% of the equity in. Nice. We're always signing on the loans. We're always heavily involved in them to own them long term. And so we're not just those, I guess, using syndication as a means to generate fees. Does that make sense?
No, you're in a business to leverage it. Justin, you are using thy formula, sir. Fantastic job. I'm very, very happy to hear that.
First I've ever heard anybody say that.
Yeah. So, we experiment a lot of things in real estate, and just to get an understanding of what we like. That's what experimenting is all about. And then you kind of use everything as a vehicle. So let me ask you, do you double dip with your sellers? And what I mean by double dipping is, do you build these relationships to then also invest with them?
That was, you know what? No, but it's indirectly happened, not by being like trying to make it happen. Mm-hmm. But what ends up happening is, and building that relationship with them, then like they'll get emails from me, just general, newsletters or monthly or quarterly stuff that goes out, and they see me investing in apartments. So I don't ever pitch them on it. Yeah. But what happens is they see me doing it, and then they're like, hey, I've seen your email, or I got this, or I got that. And like, you're investing in apartments. Like, what are you doing? And then that starts that conversation.
Yeah. Very, very smooth, like, Justin. Very smooth.
It's almost like, it's like, it's almost like you pull the sale away.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Right.
Yeah. No, good for you for
But it does happen. It's just happened a few times and then there are these high net worth individuals.
Yeah.
That now want to own apartments, but they don't really know how to set it up, but they want to trust and like the person to do it with.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the next deal comes available, and okay, here's $50,000 or $100,000 or whatever it is. And, just giving my quarterly paychecks, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I'll leave you with a note later because you just reminded me when you said high net worth individuals. I had a gentleman who came in who talked about something I hadn't heard before. It was a DST, Deferred Sales Trust. Have you heard of that? Yeah. Yep. And a good tool to use with a lot of.
Can be. Yeah. Hospitals are using them too. Like you have these health trusts. Some of the hospitals are doing it. But yeah, there's some different unique mechanisms. You know, there's different groups in the investor pool, right? You have your individual, family money, fans and friendly money, and then you get into the high net worth accredited investors, and then you get into institutional money, if you want to call it that. But then, really where the core component is in the family office space. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Enlighten us. Family offices.
Like dentists?
Yeah, you can Google it or YouTube. No, it's literally called family offices. Google it or YouTube it. Essentially what it is you have wealth advisors that are exclusive to these very, very high net worth families. When I talk about high net worth families, I'm talking about like billion-dollar families. And they have family offices. And these family offices have given these financial advisors who are running their family office money to manage their money, their portfolios that are in stocks and bonds and real estate and other things, right, that they do. And, one quadrant is investing in real estate. So obviously a great point when you get to it is building relationships with these financial men and women who are running these financial offices for these very wealthy families around the country. It's kind of a smaller version of an institutional financing. So rather than going to a big institutional group, you can go to these family offices, and if you build a relationship and you need $50 million, well, they clearly have it. They have it. But yeah, Google it or YouTube it. It's out there. You just got to build the relationships. It takes time. I haven't gotten there yet, but we do have relationships with people that we're slowly starting to build. It takes time because they're going to do their due diligence on you. I mean, you're going to be turned over inside and out before they're going to give you their money. So, they'll put private investigators on you, and so you better have your stuff together.
Come correct. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And there's never a dull moment in the lab. I love it. It's always insight, and I appreciate that so much. Let's transition right into the closing here. The rapid fire question. Listen, you're such a charismatic individual. We're so happy to have you here. Seriously, I mean, I have tons of people who come in here.
Thank you for having me, first of all.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you were vetted and you made the cut. We don't just invite anybody, just so you know. We have a lot of people who reach out to us. But it's such a pleasure because it's like-minded individuals. And the reason I'm saying this, I like to ask these core rapid fire questions just to get a sense, a little bit more of who Justin is, and then you can find out more about what he's doing. But, you strike me as a guy who's very, very well educated, obviously, with all that you've been accomplishing in education and theoretically to being a practitioner. So do you have a favorite book right now that you'd like to share with us, or the one that comes to mind first?
I actually gave it to my son, who's 6 years old. I put it on his dresser. It's called Make Your Bed.
Stop. I was like,
it was written
seriously?
It was written by General, what's his name? He's a Marine general.
Yeah. I think,
it's a little book. It's called Make My Bed or Make Your Bed. And it's obviously not about making your bed, but that's the theory behind it, because if you complete just that simple one task in the morning, it leads to everything else.
Absolutely.
And it's just a matter of creating that mindset. So it's make your bed.
Yeah.
So I've read it. Obviously, I'm making my son read it, and then I'm going to make my daughter read it. And, just keep them in line, man.
I love it. Man, salute to Justin. No, it's funny because I've heard of this. I didn't know there was a book for it, but I don't know if I've heard his speech. He's the one who wrote the book, but I've heard of that. Like making your bed, it kind of just compounds into, what's going to happen.
I mean, if you think about it, the first task in the morning, right after you wake up, and you don't have to do it like first thing. I mean, I do, but some people want to go get coffee first. But just make sure it's your first task you complete before you get in the shower and stuff, depending on who gets out of bed first, or if you're got a spouse or whatever's going on. But just make the bed. You'd be amazed. You'd be amazed what it does to your mindset.
Yeah, that's where I'm always the one making the bed. Celine, if you're listening to this, that's right.
Depending on who's getting out of bed first, right?
Salute. Best habit that serves you every day, Justin?
I meditate. Yeah, 10 to 20 minutes a day, every day. And I do Peloton. So like my morning routine is pretty much get up, Peloton, meditate, and have vision board, look at it, a cup of coffee, and that's pretty consistent.
Fascinating.
Peloton's the greatest thing ever. I got it for COVID. Yeah. I always wanted one. I wanted one for like 2 years.
It's solid.
And I finally said, you know what? F it. I'm doing it. So I ordered it. And it showed up, and it's been the greatest thing ever. I mean, I've wanted it so bad because what they've done so beautifully with Peloton, unlike these other bikes that are out there that sit in your garage and collect dust, they've gamified it.
Oh, really?
Gamified it. Well, yeah, they put these instructors on there, and they're not bad-looking instructors. And then they put everybody against each other, right? And you're like in competition because you see people on the leaderboard. You're like, oh, that person's not going to get me. And then so now you're racing against them. And
is that like AI or is that like actually like local?
Human beings. You're getting to watch, thousands of people racing with you around the world.
That's crazy.
Like I was on this morning, and the instructor is live out of London, and there was 300 people on the ride with us all at the same time, and you get to see, who they are and where they're at, and
what?
If you want to go faster. Yeah, it's great.
Wait, is it scheduled, or can you just turn this on at like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and it'll just be people running?
Both. You have scheduled live events, and then once they're not live, obviously they're recorded. No different than you going onto YouTube, and now you get to watch it. Yeah. You can ride it, but you have live events, and then you have the classes that are scheduled.
Oh, wow. That's genius.
Yeah. Yeah, Peloton's great, and then the meditation, 10 minutes a day just to clear the mind before kids and life wake up, and then got the vision board staring right at me every day, so that's there. So can't miss it. And then a cup of coffee and get things going. And I'm usually waking up by 5:15 every day.
Good man. That's solid. What do you think is the best tool that helps you excel throughout the day? It could be an application in your phone. It could be a notepad. What do you think it is?
What I love is I do use the notes on the iPhone quite a bit. It's on the iCloud, right? So it syncs to all the devices. So that way, anything I'm like thinking of, and I can't believe I didn't know this. I mean, I did know it, but I haven't used it. I never used Siri before.
Oh, you're my guy.
Now she's gonna like start talking to me because I have like iPhone and everything.
Yeah.
But now I use it, but for tasking. So because it happens a lot of times where you're thinking about something, but then you can't write it down immediately, or you're around. So I'm just like, hey Siri, remind me about X, or hey Siri, set an appointment for X. Or hey Siri, make a note in this, and like she'll do it. But now I use her like crazy, and it's actually saves me a lot of time. It helps me not forget things, because it happens all the time where you have an idea, I missed that. That's how it looks.
Priceless. You couldn't make it up. That's awesome. Like, listen, it's so funny. Celine, if you're listening, I hope you're listening to this. She says I'm insane for using it. She said I'm like the only person who uses it. My man right here, productivity king. That's right. But it does work if you use it. And I just started using it maybe this year more and more. And now that I realize she does a good job, and it sets it all. She sets it all up. I was like, this is amazing. I love it. She does such a good job. That's lovely. I love that. That's awesome. Listen, quick. 1 300-unit apartment building or 3 apartments of 100 units?
Oof. I like diversity, so I would go into 3 different ones in 100 units each.
Good answer. Class A or Class B?
I would stay in the Class B and C properties. I like to be Walmart surrounded by Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, and JCPenney's, because perfect example is right now you're seeing supply increase into the A market, and people that obviously starting to get into financial trouble, right? They have to live somewhere. So they move out of the A's. Where do they go? Into the B's.
Yep.
And Walmart's always full. Whether it's good market, bad market, they're always full. Yeah. So I'd rather be Walmart surrounded by Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, JCPenney.
Smart.
Personally.
Smart. Cash flow or equity?
Cash is cash flow. Always cash flow. Because equity is just paper, right? Really, at the end of the day, it's what it says on paper. But cash flow is real, and it comes in, and you see it in your mailbox.
Mailbox money. Let's get that mailbox money. Yeah. Self-manage or outsource?
Locally, we self-manage because I got very frustrated with the lack of professionalism of the PM companies, because I could do everything they could do. And I'm a logistics guy, so we have all the systems and operations set up. It's just that.
Yeah.
But out of state, right, where it's 3,000 miles away, we use professional management. But we have cameras on everything, so I can see everything that's going on in real time with all the buildings. But we watch it like a hawk. I mean, but we hire good companies. We have to. And if we have to make a change, we'll make a change. But having good PM companies professionally managed, and even if you got to pay a little bit more, you know, because some of the guys are maybe charging 6% or 5% or 7% or whatever
it's worth the headache.
As long as you know that their systems and operations and logistics and all that are good, that difference in money will save you, because what I've learned with some of the PM companies, especially in the turnover process, right, and lease up and make ready in the marketing, if it can save you a month of getting that unit re-rented or remade over or quicker turned over, that month is X amount, right? So, and you multiply that through units. So if you have a company that has great systems and operations in place and they speed that turnover process up to keep those units occupied. Yeah. And then if they have to turn over faster, they're faster to make them ready. So that way you're re-rented faster than maybe another company's, you know, out there doing it or not doing it.
By the way, speaking of marketing, do you do marketing in-house? I know you have some great marketing stuff. Is that
locally?
Like
for yes, all our stuff locally, we handle everything, especially on the residential sales side. I mean, marketing is my minor background. Yeah. So I mean, even still with the PM companies, they're not that great at marketing. So like on all our buildings, I have to go out and I look at how their online presence is. I look at how the online presence of the building is, and if we have to remake it or shape it, do some new marketing, branding things for the building, and then for the units to help out the PM, we do that. As part of kind of our asset management level, I'll go out there and work with the PM level, the property management level guys, and kind of help them out a little bit, because they don't have a lot of dollars going into marketing. They just don't. And so if you can kind of help them a little bit, and you know, they actually appreciate it versus just relying solely on them. So we do a bit of that.
That's fascinating. Last one for you here, Justin. You know, if you had to describe, you know, a successful investor in one word, which word do you think you would pick?
Successful in real estate investor or just investor?
Well, but you know what? I like that.
Discipline.
Discipline.
Because it's very easy, especially right now, to chase deals and to maybe over speculate, or, you know, because the sellers are up here, right? Buyers are here trying to bridge the gap. And sometimes the sellers are a little more stingy to not want to come down. So then the buyers start to, you know, give into some of the variables or their guidelines that they would use to underwrite a deal, and they don't stay disciplined. And so it's just not falling in love with the deal, not getting emotional about it, sticking with what you know works, and being disciplined. I think I read it the other day. They said, you know, you'll never always be motivated, so you better always be disciplined.
I really like that.
Right? Because think about it. There's mornings that you wake up, I wake up, we all wake up. We may not be motivated every day. I think you're naive to think I'm going to like wake up and be like, whoop, like every day of your life. Yeah. But for the days that you're not that motivated and motivation becomes hard for you, you better be disciplined to just do the task. Even if it's like on Peloton, for example, like there's mornings I'm like, oh, but you know what? I'm like, this is going to be a business ride today. I'm just going to get on, get it done. It's a business ride. It's not about me enjoying it. Because you may not, but you know what? You got to be disciplined. So
that's so powerful. I'm so glad you finished off with that. Justin, this has been so real. One thing I do want to ask you personally is, you know, you're doing a lot of things, and I think it's so fascinating and admirable. Where do you see Justin in the next 5 to 10 years? What's the plan for you? What's next?
You know, if I hit my goal, which I plan to do, I'll be out of residential sales in 3 years. By 2023, we'll be just primarily apartment investing throughout the country, and be running an apartment business, if you want to call it that. I don't want to call it syndication business, but an apartment business and asset management throughout the U.S., you know, by 2025. So, and I think I have it on my board. We want to own 1,000 units by 2025. So we're around 110 right now with our different properties, but what happens is this starts to scale. So you'll see it happen. It'll go
it's like an exponential growth.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So,
oh, that's so good, Justin. Where can we find out more about you? And we definitely will want to.
You can Google me, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, you can do, Google
Imagine
Justin
saying
Brennan.
that as an elevator pitch. Yeah, just Google me, man.
Right? Just Google me, baby. You can do that. YouTube, Justin Brennan. You can go to our website at brennanrealestategroup.com. That's the residential sales website. Or brennanpolegroup.com is the apartment business. So, and love to just be a resource for people. If they have questions, shoot, I'll just give it out. I don't want anything for it. Free.
Absolutely. We'll make sure we include that all in the show notes. Just like that. Justin, thank you for stepping in the lab, and we are out.